All right, so we don't have too many more. But again, those are like the basic simplifying trigonometric identities. But a lot of times when we are simplifying identities, there's operations that are involved. We have multiplication, or also we have addition and subtraction, or we have factoring. So there's a lot of things we need to do, not just to simplify an expression, but a lot of times we need to be able to apply operations. So that's what we're going to get into these and these next couple examples. So if I have cosine of x plus sine of x, remember, ladies and gentlemen, that is cosine of x plus sine of x times cosine of x plus sine of x. So it's very important. Do not just distribute that square to both of those terms. This can be rewritten as a cosine of x plus a sine of x times a cosine of x plus a sine of x, right? So you can apply distributive property, you can apply a FOIL, whatever you want to think about, or how you remember how to do this. So cosine of x times cosine of x is going to be a cosine of x squared. Cosine times sine, cosine, and then you have sine times cosine. Those are exactly the same. Well, I'll just rewrite it out. Sine times sine of x times cosine of x. And then we have cosine of x times sine of x. And then we have sine of x times sine of x, which is going to be a sine squared of x. Okay? Now, remember, since these are exactly the same, 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2, right? They both equal 6. So we can combine them to give us a 2, and it doesn't matter which order you want to write. And then also remember, cosine squared of x plus sine squared of x is equal to a 1. So 1 plus a 2 sine of x cosine of x. So again, remember, this is just applying the operations and then simplifying if we can. Not all of them are going to be able to be simplified. But we're going to try our best. So in this one, again, we have multiplication, but here's something kind of interesting. Notice how my first two terms are exactly the same. Notice how my last two terms are exactly the same. Notice how one's positive and one's negative. Hopefully, if you remember from your good old Algebra 2 days, this is going to be the difference of two squares. We can rewrite that, right, as an a squared minus a b squared. So this is going to be a cotangent squared of x minus a cosecant squared of x. Now, another thing that I want you to kind of recognize that the cotangent and cosecant are related via the Pythagorean identities. So I can actually further simplify this. Yes, I can apply the operation, but again, it said to simplify or look to simplify. So I can rewrite a cosecant, remember, as a cotangent of x plus 1, or a 1 plus cotangent of x. So I can rewrite this as a cotangent squared of x plus 1. Now again, apply distributive property, and you get a cotangent squared of x minus a cotangent squared of x minus 1. Well, those are going to divide out, and we're just going to be left with a negative 1. Over here, again, we can just apply distributive property here. It might be easy, or might be helpful in this case before you actually get into multiplying, that you just remember that secant is 1 over a cosine of x, and cotangent is cosine of x over a sine of x. Okay, so again, a lot of times, the more practice you get on this, you just kind of do this in your head. But be careful, once you start doing things in your head, that's also where a lot of mistakes are going to happen. But sine of x times 1 over cosine of x is going to be a sine of x over cosine of x, and sine of x times cosine over sine, those are going to divide out, or your sines are going to divide out, so you're just going to be left with a cosine of x. So we know sine of x over cosine of x is going to be a tangent of x plus a cosine of x. All right, now over here, you could go ahead and distribute this. But again, remember what I said, ding, 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 think of your Pythagorean identities. Tangent squared of x plus 1, ladies and gentlemen, is just going to be a secant squared of x. 1 minus a sine squared of x, if you manipulate it, is simply just going to be times the cosine of x, cosine squared of x. And just remember, secant is 1 over a cosine squared of x. So times a cosine squared of x, we know that those are reciprocals of each other, so therefore it's just going to equal 1.